Oh my god.
Okay, so
This was weirdly stressful.
So last time I did a PC build, I ended up selling it because I wasn't able to transition over from Mac to Windows. Plus, I honestly wasn't playing that many games at that moment. I told myself that I won't be endeavoring any more builds, but a few years later, IQUNIX sent me their mini Itx ZX-1 case, which absolutely crushed my own promise because it just looks stunning. Just by looking at it, I had to do another build. So here we are. Now the purpose of the build was obvious from the get-go. I wanted to do a budget build that won't be replacing my Mac workflow, which I can use for leisure exclusively for gaming. Now I'm not much of a gamer myself, but if there's one game that I love playing with my wife, that is Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, so the specs had to resonate with the extensive graphic pack of the game accordingly. Of course, just like my last PC build, the timing couldn't be worse with chip shortage and crypto mining obliterating the custom building market, but what are you gonna do? Also, this being an ITX build, I needed some help gathering the components and cramming them inside this tiny beautiful enclosure. So I reached out to my good friend Dmitry from Hardware Canucks, and he helped me come up with some very decent specs. Now, the graphics card, of course, was the most difficult thing to acquire, and not wanting to spend more money or time, I settled with GTX 1660 Super. The next thing was the build itself.
Alright, let's do it. That's very natural. So this is the case in question. It's by IQUNIX. And my question is this. Where's the CD slot?
CD slot.
Never mind. Let's move on. Okay, so we have the IQUNIX case, which is amazing, and it was probably the reason that I decided to make this build because it's really beautiful to me. I know you have a lot more experience than me with cases, but I think this looks fairly well, not fairly, it looks fantastic if you ask me.
I mean, the color scheme alone, look around your studio, you have orange pillows, so the color scheme for the top is absolutely gorgeous. And yes, I have my fair share of ITX experience, but I'm really excited to see what you do with it in terms of your whole process with it, like building around it, because usually with ITX, it's a bit of a challenge, not just in terms of like choosing components, but like fitting everything inside. So this should be a good one. So it was obvious that E had no idea what he was doing when it came to ITX systems in general. And when it comes to building something this small, there's so many discrepancies with parts, and until you actually have the parts in your hand, it's very difficult to understand how things are going to come together. And only then you realize what type of challenge you're up against.
We are going on a budget, so everything that you see here is, I would say in those days, fairly affordable. It's not like a high-end PC build. So let's start with the motherboard, which is the Gigabyte Z590 Vision D, which comes in white. And it wasn't the reason to purchase it, but it surely probably will fit and match the color scheme of the case, which is nice.
For sure, the Vision D is excellent for that type of like clean design, especially with the white elements. You picked well on this one.
So this motherboard was chosen for a reason, in order to fit the processor that went into it, because you recommended that we go for the 11th gen.
Yeah, the 11400F. It's a fantastic processor for gaming, and like if you're looking to get the latest and best from Intel for the budget, this was an easy choice recommendation.
So the MVP is the graphics card, which is MSI GeForce 1660 Super. Here's my question. There's a 1660 model, and this is the Super. Super is the extra memory, or?
It's just a slightly more refined GPU itself, so it will clock higher than the original 1660. So this is the slightly better iteration.
The CPU is gonna be cooled by, this was your recommendation again.
This is the NH-L12S. It's probably the best low profile cooler you can find. And this is probably one of the, like, it's very accessible, and it's super compact, so perfect for this ITX machine. The only thing is that this cooler comes with the fan pre-installed to intake or to exhaust air from the bottom, but in fact you get much better cooling if you set it to intake cold air from the outside instead. So it's blowing the air through the heatsink, taking cool air from the outside. So this is one of those things that I discovered when building my own. So the Noctua fan is something that I've used personally on many builds when it comes to small form factor. When the space is tight, it's whisper quiet. It's one that I recommend to everyone. And I'm really hoping there won't be any compatibility and height issues with this one.
I'll just be totally honest with you. I had no idea that the Intel i5 processor comes with a cooling fan in the package, and Dmitry's recommendation for the Noctua cooler was exciting because with it, it should be very, very quiet.
So huge thanks to Silverstone for sending over this power supply for the case. When we talked with them, they really decided to jump on board and send us over whatever they thought was more than enough to be able to supply this build. And this is the ZX-1 power supply.
It's awesome because it's SFX, so it's the smallest power supply that is consumer, good for ITX units. 500 watts is plenty enough, and it's fully modular. What's next?
Next is the SSD. This is the Samsung Evo 980, and it's 1 terabyte, by the way. And the other component is RAM, which is 16 gigabytes Corsair Vengeance LPX DDR4, which is great for this motherboard in combination with the processor that we chose. Now, I was afraid that 16 wouldn't be enough, but when we spoke actually, for my type of gaming, it should be okay.
Yeah.
This thing is tiny. I haven't opened the boxes. Like, they've been sitting here for like a week.
Well, I think the next thing is to install everything onto the motherboard. So when it comes to CPU installation, the main thing to keep in mind is that there should not be any resistance. So as I was saying, when it comes to the installation, right, you always have to align the triangles on the CPU and the motherboard. So it's kind of made, there's a triangle right there. There's a triangle on the CPU. For some reason though, they've made these triangles on the actual CPU smaller. So I'm always now contemplating if I'm placing it right. Whereas before, that whole corner used to be very bright yellow.
Yeah.
So let's see, where's the triangle? So triangle is on this corner. So this is that, yeah. So just drop it in, or just like lower it in to align it. Give it a little wiggle, just, yeah, it's good?
Yes.
So now we lowered this guy. This plastic bit is supposed to pop off.
I like the names of all the PC components. All of them sound like badass, It's like my RAM is Vengeance and my processor is gonna be a Threadripper. No, that was
Threadripper. Yeah, it rips the threads. So RAM is probably the easiest installation because all you have to do is look at the notch and look at the notch on the motherboard.
You should have started with it's the easiest installation because now I'm a bit nervous.
Oh,
so I have to match the notch, right? And that's not the right way. So
go. There we go. Nice.
We gotta take a break.
So the interesting thing about the NVMe SSD installation is that on most ITX motherboards, because of the limited amount of real estate you have on the front, a lot of motherboards have M.2 installations at the back. So the good thing with this one is that this is the main M.2, which means that it comes with this massive heatsink for the cooler or for the M.2 drive. So I'm gonna let you. Isn't that weird? It's always some new challenges. Like I've never had to remove the top plate, but I guess it makes sense from a design perspective when you have a heatsink.
If it was just me, I wouldn't even know that there is an SSD in there, like SSD slot. So no worries at all. So we
now
put this back.
We attach this guy back. So at this point in time in the build, this is something that I've never come across in my building career, and I've built plenty of ITX systems, but this Gigabyte motherboard, it made me angry because of that really weird tall I/O shield that prevents the cooler from being mounted on top. And it's just not a good design for any ITX system, especially when you're dealing with low profile designs.
Now at this point I found out that the processor comes with a cooler in the package, which made me question the reason for purchasing an additional one. After all, this is a budget build and spending extra on additional cooler seemed excessive in my mind.
I'm very glad that my Noctua cooler fits with my motherboard and my home setup, because when it comes to ITX, you know, you never know what you're gonna get. So not my problem. The build is done. It's working. Iskren, it's all up to you, man.
Contain it. Contain it.
We're gonna use the stock cooler that came with the Intel processor because apparently the other one didn't fit. You wanna try?
Yeah, let's see.
So these two are in,
Yeah.
but then do I have to rotate them?
Oh my god.
Okay, so
This was weirdly stressful.
what's next?
Boom. Look at that cable management. Actually, I really like the look of the stock cooler.
Yeah,
Don't
very
you?
nice.
I know Dmitry is saying that he likes the look of the stock cooler because he doesn't want me to feel bad not being able to fit the Noctua one. And I bet he's also saying that the stock cooler is amazingly quiet too.
Like, look at how beautiful.
I mean, I like it way better than the Noctua, trust me.
Oh my gosh, but we're not expecting the compatibility issue with the Noctua cooler, not because of the motherboard or the RAM, but because of this piece here on the motherboard I/O. It's not normally this high, so.
Yeah.
But we have a nice solution with a cooler that I think is locked. So the best thing with ITX is to have as much access as possible from all sides. Yeah, this way we have access for the power supply and cables. So let's mount the motherboard in. The good thing about this motherboard, it has the I/O shield built in, so you don't have to apply anything.
And it's white.
Yeah, actually, it's gonna look so sweet.
Until that blocks.
Yep. All right.
So now we can just lay this down.
Motherboard secured. Nice.
What is next?
The next thing we need to reroute the power cable. When you're dealing with an internal power supply that's not very easy to access, is to make sure that you power it on instead of off. Now the next thing is to mount this riser cable. So this is for your graphics card. So
Okay,
instead of the
right.
graphics card, no way to plug it into your
Motherboard,
computer
okay.
here. It will be routed like this. Beautiful.
So this is what it looks like. Fairly compact, very compact actually.
It's very compact. And it's because of the silver, it's, you know, it almost matches the white.
Okay, the camera can see, but I can't see anything. Honestly, I can't see anything. Okay.
I think.
And it should kind of, yeah, like clip in place.
Okay, it's in place.
It's good. Next part is the most fun part for everyone, is to do cable management. What I like to do is start with case cables first, like everything that comes for the front I/O, the power cables, and then cleanly tuck those away in places, and then only then bring in the cables for the power supply, plug those in.
You figured out that this motherboard doesn't have a connector for
It doesn't have a connector for HD audio.
HD audio.
So this case has, you know, 3.5 microphone and headphone on the top I/O. You can see the holes there. So this is the first time in my experience I see a motherboard that has no HD audio connector, which is bizarre, but you know, you can still have audio on the back of the motherboard. So
I don't mind at all. Did this? No.
it should be upside
Yeah.
down.
Yes.
If it fits, it sits, you know?
How would you rate this build as far as surprises, or like, was it fairly straightforward?
I mean, it's straightforward once you know, look at the manual and like figure out how to assemble things. You know, if you just dive in, especially with more boutique ITX enclosures like this. But in terms of surprises, the most surprising thing for me has been the motherboard. You know, the fact that we couldn't necessarily fit the cooler that we wanted, but we do have a very good alternative.
It's a chunky boy. It weighs,
Yeah.
weighs
Yeah.
quite a bit.
It's got some power density. That's the whole beauty of ITX, right? Okay, you have the honors, or
We're gonna have light. That's actually very quiet.
yeah, the idle would be whisper quiet.
Like I told you, it would be whisper quiet. In reality, after the episode and after spending a few hours playing on this PC, it's not whisper quiet, not even close, but hey, at least it's working.
Happy new PC build.
Thank you. I appreciate your help. And guys, thank you for watching. And as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is Z, and this is Dmitry from Hardware Canucks. Take care and have a good day.
Over and out. That's the one you say.
I'm starting to feel a little bit more relaxed. First few seconds were like...
What to do, what to say?
Didn't...
Wow,
Okay, this is for you.
This is for me?
Yes.
Wow, thank you, man. Are you freaking kidding me? Maybe this one is for later.
Do we have another motherboard? It's like tiny. You just want to hug it. Guess we don't need that anymore, right? I guess we don't need that anymore, right?
And that should pop off the...
More this way, so that it goes behind that whole contraption here.
Yeah. And the top here. Which
How do we remove that?
let's check out the manual.
We have a CD, see?
Ooh. So let's get into this installation.
A few moments later. What just happened? It did? There's gotta be a better way. See, this is very gentle. I'm like an IKEA guy. I just take everything out of the box.
Yeah. We're men.
We make fire and cook meat.
Pee on fire, don't get invited back. So, yeah, so let's see.
Houston, we have a problem.
Contain it! Contain it!
Did we have the music background the whole time?
Yes.
Okay.
How did these snaps in so well? The other ones are like, we ain't going in. We ain't going
Okay.
nowhere. Is it in?
No.
Okay, so they do come off. Like that.
So me and screwing this made no difference at all?
So maybe this was just a little practice for you. I mean, we...
Yeah, that's... I woke up this morning, I'm like, I need to practice more. What is that?
It's a small one. Where'd that come from? So this little guy...
I'm working on the more difficult part of assembling the screwdriver.
I will review the manual because I have never seen anything like it before. Riser, volume...
Put the wrong head.
Oh boy.